running really smooth for me right now. I know a few people still are having some issues out there, but from my standpoint, it is night and day difference from like 2 days ago to where we are now.
Yeah, that's yeah, and performance is surely like the main thing that we have dedicated ourselves. Like Xcode and I have been going hard on trying to improve performance, and
And,
awesome.
and I'm going to
Yeah.
throw both of us under the bus by spawning 10,000 NPCs here in a minute. But
You're going to destroy all our efforts
uh,
right now, right, John?
yeah,
Oh,
baseline
this
performance
is
up. It's much better than it was a few days ago. Um, yeah.
yeah. Nemesis engine has been tricky, right, John? We were discussing this just
Oh yeah, very tricky.
before joining the brew.
Yeah.
It is it is a really cool feature. Like it brings so much depth to the game, and
Yep. So just really briefly, the heart of the issues I'm having with it are that unaligned factions are all one thing, and so we had to create sidecars, which are just identifiers that hook onto this unaligned faction for each of the different NPCs. Otherwise, they would all seem like the same NPC to each other, and they couldn't fight each other. So creating this like subsystem where they all have unique identities. Um, Now they need Starbase player accounts, which means they need Starbases, which means we needed to rethink how Starbase identities worked. And because of council rank, they have to obey those rules that we have in place for council rank for moving through enemy territory. And so it's a very layered approach that I'm trying to take to get through everything. So in isolation, I can get the enemy NPCs to fight each other if they're in the same area. Just working on getting them reliably moving across boundaries that they don't own. And once that's working, I'm going to look at not spawning, but replacing the unaligned bases with actual tags for different NPCs. For this phase, it's just going to be Jorvik pirates and Relic Baron merchants. But that means later we'll have unaligned space will be owned and managed by individual self-thinking NPC branches, right? NPC factions. So it's going to be really cool. But there's a lot going into it, and I'm focused on getting the movement across boundaries and stuff working properly right now. So
yeah. And something really cool that John did as well was that he brought all the lore of Star Atlas into the Sage editor through the Nemesis engine. So the factions that you guys see in game, like their behavior, how they perform in game, it's literally written using the actual factions lore of Star Atlas. So as John was saying, like now we have two factions only moving, but in a not distant future, you guys can wait to see all the current 88 factions that were created inside Star Atlas so far in the game. So how cool is that going to be, right? They'll be able to conquer star bases, they'll have their own markets, they'll have their own philosophies, lore, logic. Uh, yeah, it's super interesting to see this taking shape one ant step out every time, but we are surely moving forward. It's super cool, super cool. Uh, I see some people describing uh, some things that they would like to see, some bugs that they are seeing. Chap, I have not been able to reproduce this browser crash, but I'll try to take a look later today. Uh, so it was confirming, John, that the Conqueror Starbase docking seems to work now, which is super cool. And SIP wall wants updates on the borders and frames to be more than just a line. Base Timmy, very first SIP wall. We'll probably spend more time on bugs fixing for now because they are more important at this point of development, but we'll surely do some improvements overall in the UI UX as we go for sure. The build tree exploit, please fix after building the claim. If you build a building, then delete that building, then build it again, it gains XP points. This is interesting, I didn't see this one yet. We'll take a look at this scavenger.
Yep.
I don't know that that's necessarily an exploit. I think perhaps it could be perceived as an exploit here in PTR, given we don't, we're just using placeholder values largely throughout the economy. I am curious, like when you delete buildings in claim stakes or cultivation claims, there's supposed to be some resource loss associated with that. Also, I wouldn't put much faith into the time of construction at all. So I think realistically, you should be gaining XP anytime you construct or craft a building. However, the economic and time inputs to that when dialed in should offset the XP gains. Essentially, if you're just trying to run that on a loop just to just to like mass grind or spam XP. Also, the XP curves are not anywhere close to what they're going to be in the game. And so, doing something right now like a simple extra small fleet mining loop is going to give you a significant amount of XP and push you through the council rank curve pretty rapidly. But again, that won't be the case when we get to mainnet. Like I would anticipate a significantly extended timeline on completing skill trees and council rank when we get onto mainnet. And in some cases, we could be talking years to try to max out your council rank. So, but still worth looking into. Appreciate you pointing it out, Scavenger.
Yeah, for sure. And this is even something really interesting, Michael. Will it even be possible to max out our council ranks, or it's going to be something that probably grows infinite? Because we have this concept now of the infinite nodes, right? Which we can keep adding to for diminishing returns in buffs in different areas of the game. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there should be continuous progression, but I guess what I'm referring to is just the ability to specialize or assign points to every skill across all of the sub licenses, your council rank, the entire skill tree. Like in theory, you should be able to complete everything and be maxed out. To your point, as you progress beyond that, there should be a way to allocate further progression into the skill tree, but the important thing is like whether or not you can get access to every skill in the skill tree, and from my perspective, that should be at least feasible. Maybe worth just noting really quickly here, we're still having a pretty lengthy debate internally about how XP scaling will work. Jose, John, you guys actually had some feedback on that as well. I think it was last week, but the question is, do we have an exponential XP curve that scales exponentially with the size or class of ships, or do we flatten the entire XP curve and provide smaller XP rewards regardless of the class of fleet that you're operating with, which would then shift us more into this kind of time-based progression system as opposed to I'll say investment-based or capital investment-based scaling. Now, the original model was the exponential model, exponential scaling in progression and leveling up over time, and exponential XP rewards depending on the size or class of the asset that you're operating with. But I think we're going to lean more into a flatter curve so that everybody, and the reason for that is because initially the concept was like, if you look specifically at fleet concurrency or ship class unlocking, it actually makes sense from that standpoint to scale exponentially. However, with all of the other skills that are accessible across the skill tree, that's not really fair. And we're not trying to force people into purchasing, commanders to progress in the game. Everybody should have essentially an equal opportunity to gain access to just about all of the skills. Again, ship class and fleet concurrency may not be relevant for a lot of users if you're only operating a handful of ships and fleets, and maybe the largest ship you own is a small, you don't necessarily care about that. And so just to kind of restate, the original logic was, well, if a player doesn't care about increasing ship class because they don't own those assets and maybe they never will, then it's fine if the curve scales exponentially, because the people who actually want to get up to commanders or titans and own them will be the ones that have the ability to scale and progress along that curve. But there's so many other skills now within the skill tree that we really want people to be able to get access to everything and not gate it by how much money did you spend in the game, and rather how much time are you spending in the game. So what we're likely to see is very similar XP gains regardless of the asset that you own and what you're operating, and more based on how much time are you actually spending in the game.
John is asking something. Maybe there can be a multiplier for larger ships. The way that I personally see this, John, is that, for example, when you have a large ship and you are performing a mining action, you are already being rewarded by the size of your asset, because a larger ship mines a lot more than a XX small ship. So you are getting this resource bonus from this activity. And I think that if we gave you, on top of that, an extra XP bonus, it would be like double rewarding you for that, and increasing the difference between the small player who is also performing mining operations and you who have a bigger asset. So that's the overall underlying logic here, is that the mining, let's say we are mining. I am mining with an XX small and you are mining with a large ship. You're going to get more output from your mining operation, but the two of us are getting the same amount of XP. So the player's capital and ship size and etc., they are rewarded on the game economic front, not on the game XP level up front. That's the overall logic that we are exploring here.
And perhaps I didn't articulate this well, but under the former initial model concept with exponential returns based on size of or scale of the asset, that is effectively the multiplier. If you own a commander, you're getting 10 times the amount of XP as somebody that owns an extra small fleet. What we're proposing is that in lieu of doing that, we're going to flatten the curve. Now, it doesn't mean that an extra small is necessarily going to earn the exact same thing, but instead of being 10x, it might only be 10% greater or something like that. We haven't fully defined the curve yet, but the internal thinking is that we're likely to move to a flatter model that's more consistent regardless of what it is that you own and operate. It's, are you active in the game? And if you're active in the game, you're earning XP and you're still going to have the ability to get access to all skills in the skill tree over time. I still have outstanding questions around fleet concurrency. To me, that's a potential exploit if we're basing your XP gains on number of actions as opposed to, say, the number of fleets, a number of ships in a fleet. And I guess what I'm trying to get at here is somebody that runs 10 single extra small ships in a fleet, so 10 different fleets of one extra small, versus somebody who runs one fleet with 10 extra smalls in it, should get the same amount of XP regardless of the activity that they're, regardless of what they're doing. And so, I want to make sure we're not forcing people just to split fleets just for the sake of taking more actions per minute and getting more XP. And just quickly, Ronald, I don't necessarily think so. I think XP is just one of the value propositions of owning larger assets. Naturally, and Jose kind of touched on this, if you own a commander fleet, if you own an Armstrong Imp, for example, you're already getting the benefit of significantly higher extraction rates of resources. And that's true for any asset in the game, cultivation claims, claim stakes. If we're talking about fighter ships, you have a higher probability of winning engagements. So there's already a lot of intrinsic utility to the assets based on economic principles without necessarily overly rewarding for XP. So, I guess in a way you could say, sure, it reduces the value slightly, but given we're making a corresponding adjustment to the leveling curve as well. So if we kept the leveling curve exponential and we reduced all of the XP of larger assets, then I think that would be more negatively impactful to the value of those assets than flattening the XP curve requirements and also flattening the XP earnings of all of those assets.
Yep. I see people commenting on the chat. If anyone else has any questions about this topic or any thoughts on XP curves in game, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, I mean, for Sharkbait, I'm not sure if he's referring like XP in the game. I don't know if you've played any of the C4 PTR yet, but there's 8 or so different licenses and skill trees, and earning XP towards those allows you to unlock various skills that improve how you play the game. It might be efficiency in movement, so your subwarp and warp costs less. It's being able to expand into larger classes of ships. It's being able to put more ships into a single fleet. It's how many fleets you can operate. So all of the progression curve unlocks various benefits. If you're referring to ZXP, then yeah, that is, of course, part of the Origin season airdrop campaign.
I have a comment too. Just recently, we did an overhaul on Council Rank, and I got tasked with Pilot XP for the Phase 2 PTR, and
oh, you're the responsible party for getting 0 XP when I'm moving around.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was my bad. For warp anyway. So you should get XP for warp and subwarp. The way that I've designed XP for this phase was that there was a hard cap, so that it let players go about their day. And what I wanted to do was let people get on and play for an hour and max out their pilot XP for the day. And people that wanted to automate and run stuff 24/7, they didn't end up with a 24x gain of XP over top of other people. So pilot is one of those really interesting cases where if you're doing it properly, your ships are just always moving. And so actually implemented a diminishing returns on XP the longer that you went on for, and then there's sort of a daily cap that kicks in for everybody. And I'm not saying it's going to be like that forever. It was just the low-hanging fruit way of making sure that on day one someone didn't have 24 days worth of XP when our phase 2 is intended to only be 30 days long, kind of thing. So that just a window into my mind as to how to fix that problem for the I am the one. Yeah, I did it. Sorry. But there is a fix coming for warp, so you should be getting XP on warp soon if you haven't already. And just know that you don't gain XP until you actually take an action outside of movement, like dock or start mining or something, and that's just left over from how Sage Starbase was done, where you didn't have to click the stop warp button anymore. We wrapped stop warp into this other command. So we have an option available to us, which is that we can force trigger you to stop warp at the end of each jump, but it's extra transactions that everyone's going to have to pay for eventually. And you may want to take a different move before you do something, and then that stop warp command would be just wasted zinc. So yeah, that's a long rambly way of saying that's how we're doing XP for pilots right now.
And since we're on the hate on Xcode bandwagon right now, I'm gonna throw John under the bus. There was a request yesterday for global chat, and so just started doing a little research into that. And John, you've developed a primitive for an on-chain messaging service that I think could be pretty cool. And you shared with me an SDK, and what you said was the SDK has everything I need. Now I asked Artemis for an assessment of that, and what she says is Xcode's description is directionally accurate, but the SDK has everything you need, in quotes, is materially overstated. So
no
did you
way.
did you use the V3 SDK or the V1 SDK? That's the real question.
The V3.
Oh no.
Zip
Okay.
that you
Well, I
linked.
failed you. I'm sorry.
But leave it to an agent to call you out.
Yeah. Did you want me to touch on the messaging platform at all, or?
You can. I don't necessarily know that this is the direction we're going to take with it. I think it's a cool concept, but it does look, this is very much a primitive and not necessarily a full service suite yet.
For sure.
But it might be the way we go. I'm still considering this versus the architecture that we had in HoloSim for faction chat.
Yeah. So I'm going to frame this.
Feel free.
I'm going to frame this from a community developer perspective, so that you guys have an idea in the back of your head, right? So we have the Zinc blockchain getting ready to release, and we're going to release some documentation and tooling about how to deploy programs on there. The same process as deploying Solana programs. The tools are going to be, and the documentation is going to be geared towards agentic programming. So you give these tools to your agent and you say, I want to deploy this this program on Zinc. And whether it has anything to do with Star Atlas or not, is hopefully it does. But the point is that there's a blockchain sitting here, Zinc, and we had a messaging service for HoloSim that was sort of a off-chain traditional standalone thing, right? To the tune of big dollars every month to enable back and forth messaging. So a sort of a side interest of mine has always been secure communications, like secure messaging, whether it's over radio or whether it's over blockchain or whatever. So the idea was to build a messaging platform that encrypts locally on the device, but stores the encrypted messages on chain. And that leverages our blockchain, the Zinc blockchain, as the storage medium. And it lets us use the Starframe framework that we built for in-game communications to facilitate the communications between the wallets, sort of thing. So I have this communications protocol on the side here, and it enables you to essentially add friend requests, like send each other your public keys, and then encrypt messages to each other and store them on Zinc. And so you're using your Zinc balance basically to rent space for your messages. And as you delete those messages, you reclaim that rent. And so that protocol could maybe replace the in-game messaging that we were paying a third-party service for to host. We weren't paying a service, we were paying to host the infrastructure to have our own messaging platform. And yeah, I think it's a good case study, if anything. Maybe it will work for what we're doing, maybe it won't. But for anybody who's interested in building their own Star Atlas related apps, like, you're going to be able to roll your own apps and deploy them on Zinc and connect to our games in whatever way we make that possible. And I'm hoping that the messaging system will be sort of something that people can point at as a kind of a guide. Like, hey, if I wanted to deploy an app on Zinc, this is how I go about doing it. And it's very similar to how you deploy programs on Solana. It's actually identical, just using our infra. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about it, and it's been a fun side project. And yeah, it's definitely in line with what we're doing as far as like moving compute to the chain and having users, adopt and pay for their own compute, essentially, like their own blockchain space. Yeah, so that's kind of the Cole's Notes version of it.
That is work, John. That is work.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited to hopefully open source it pretty soon here, and then be able to point to it as a yeah, blame the guys with the thanks, Jindo.
That was a low blow, Jindo, and you know it.
Yeah.
It.
I'm taking extra care with this community guide because I already did find a couple bugs in it, and I don't want you guys going around in circles. But yeah.
Michael,
You specifically said on our last meeting that you want people going around in circles.
Yeah, John, something about buying stock in Anthropic and then having you guys burn tokens. I don't know, something. But...
Profit. Oh man.
Sorry.
Yeah, on the chat feature, just one final comment is I do think that it's an essential feature for persistent universe MMO RTS. I don't think we saw a whole lot of value out of it in HoloSim, and I'm not sure if that was because it was faction specific and then you had spies on every side, so people weren't really orchestrating efforts through the faction chat. So I think we're just going to roll out global first. John, I might have missed it. Did you talk about the encrypted guild chat though?
No, I didn't, and you just reminded me of that. So
yeah, so that's a cool, potentially really cool feature.
Yes, so that's actually the really cool part. So global chat is not encrypted. It's just everybody's writing plain text to the chain, and you subscribe to a particular publisher, and then you see everything that's published, and that's great. But there's this protocol started as two-way communication between two wallets, and I extended it so that you can set up sort of a guild key, and then guild members who are allowed to subscribe to those messages are able to read them. And so a guild owner can facilitate encrypted guild communications with only approved wallets and maintain their status, like maintain their what's the right word? Maintain their subscription, whatever it is when you're part of a guild. If you get kicked out of the guild or you leave, you revoke those permissions. Everyone's reissued a new key, and and that's kind of all handled in the protocol. So this would give us in-game, even if it doesn't give us in-game guild chat, this can give the Star Atlas community at large guild chat, right? You can now have encrypted communications just by having the person's wallet address. And I think that's huge because there's been so many times when I've wanted to just send messages to our community at large without having to ask you guys for your email address or without having to ask you for your phone number, right? Like, I want to be able to talk to the player that is the one that's blowing me up, and I want to send him messages saying, hey, stop blowing me up or whatever, or I want to say, hey, let's team up on this. And by doing this, everyone who plays the game will have an account that's registered, and those messages can start coming to your account through this protocol. And they'll just be sitting there, and as soon as you subscribe to the protocol, you'll have to you'll be able to read those messages. Yeah. So for every message, you need to pay rent. That's true. And that rent cost is 002 Sol or 002 zinc, right? And when you delete the message, the rent is reclaimed. And so there is no more cost to hosting it. So I built like a demo front end for it, and it has a little ink bottle, and the ink bottle drains as you send messages, and the ink bottle refills as you delete them. And what I suggested we do in our in-game system is every 7 days a cleanup system. Sorry, every day runs a cleanup system, and the messages that are 7 days old are cleaned up, and all of that zinc is sent back to the wallets that sent the messages, minus a small fee for automatically cleaning them up. If you clean them up yourself, then you get all the zinc back yourself, kind of thing. But that way you have some persistence in messaging. We're making better use of zinc. We are collectively like, we're using the ecosystem for something tangible in-game communications, and I just hope that kind of sparks people's ideas. Like, hey, now I have this thing that's not Solana, that's not super expensive. I can deploy my own programs with these tools, and I can store data on this zinc chain, especially data that's related to Star Atlas, and begin using it for, whatever it is that you guys are dreaming up right now. So
Let's go.
yeah.
John, for something like this, I'm just brainstorming with you here, but I wonder if there's not an application of some type of L2 rollup that we could do. So I don't necessarily like the idea of ephemeral messaging or forced ephemeral messaging to recover your rent deposits, but I wonder if there's, like I said, an implementation here that we can use that allows for messages to roll up to the chain so we can retain them and still recover rent over time. Possibly something worth exploring there.
Definitely worth exploring. Yeah. This question about IPFS, like, you don't want to store anything large on the blockchain like this. Like, I think it was going to be like 200 Sol to store a 10 megabyte file or something. I was like, no. So small text, yes. Apps, photographs, no. Like you can deploy small chunks of code and those run as apps, but you don't want to like store. This is not like, the blockchain is not a data storage place. We could hook into something like Arweave, right? And have a link out to a blockchain storage system, but or any storage system for that matter. But my goal was to keep it like as the blast radius as small as possible. It's using as few extra frills as possible. It's all the messaging is contained on Zinc or Solana, and like no outside services are needed to run anything. There's a few libraries that are like encryption libraries and stuff that do the encryption, but that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Also, I did see a message quite a bit farther up from Oriog about the placeholder images that we have for all of the resources, and just to confirm, yeah, those will all have their own individual icon when we get to mainnet. It's something that Danny's gonna jam through, but fortunately with AI image gen, we should be able to produce those pretty quickly. It's just a pretty low priority right now.
Yep. Michael, I actually wanted to touch on a message from Erder. He was asking, guys, as you guys see the development of Phase 2, what are you guys feeling in terms of timeline for the beginning of Phase 3? And we are still in bug fixing, I know, but how are you feeling overall, Michael, about the progress so far?
I mean, I think progress has been incredible. I'm pretty sure I've made a similar comment on previous town halls, but we really sidelined any bug fixing in Phase 1 as we started to get excited about some of the new features that we could add that weren't even in the original C4 scope. And so we kind of all rotated into, let's build out these features and get them added to Phase 2. And when we get Phase 2 rolled out, then we can actually recenter our focus on bug fixing. And you guys know, just even from our all hands, well, yesterday we did an all hands playtest, and then last week the conversation was, let's make sure we prioritize bug fixing now. We have what I believe to be a pretty robust foundation of a game client, and so making sure that everything is working as intended, working well, and is enjoyable is really the focus for now. Our internal target for this phase is about 30 days, and so we're just shy of 1 week into that right now. I've posted a few of the the summaries from Sage and our team agent Discord, and we're looking at anywhere from like 25 to 35 commits per day, so bug fixes per day. Now this is across a variety of different things, but that is an incredible pace. Seeing 35 commits would likely have taken months historically. So to see that every single day, and Jose, you actually asked Jacob's agent Sage for an estimate of how long it would take to burn through the backlog of bug reports given that current pace, and I think it was 5 to 7 days is what it was estimating.
Yeah, 7 to 10 days, yes.
7 to 10, and of course that depends on how many new tickets are coming into the backlog. But no, I feel really good. I think the optimizations and performance were one of the biggest improvements that we've seen so far. Just actually being able to click on buttons and not have to wait a second or two for it to activate. So it feels a lot better playing right now. There's still an enormous amount of work that we need to do on game balance, on economic balance. I'm actually feeling pretty good about our intended economic or Atlas emissions design, and so I've touched on that a little bit, but overall feeling really good. I think 30 days is more than a reasonable timeline. And then just to restate, phase 3, the primary goal for features to include in phase 3, from my perspective, is really exclusively the single player campaign mode. That's the number one most important thing that we have to get in before a mainnet launch. Now, that said, Jose, you and John have done a tremendous amount of work on crew systems, adding individual crew into the game, being able to mint crew from crew packs directly in the game, trading them on a marketplace, individual crew leveling, crew mission systems. Like, these are all insanely cool features. Major impact to how many systems, backend systems, they actually touch. And so we're, obviously still doing a bit of analysis on what the consequences of rolling those out are. But assuming we hit our goals here on this 30-day timeline for phase 2, and we've gotten through most or all of the bugs, then it's not unreasonable to assume that we can get that single player campaign and the crew systems in place. And that would be our phase 3 test, which then rolls into the way I want to execute our launch on this is to, which we've never really done before, is just have full certainty around readiness to go to mainnet. Historically, we've always just pushed extremely hard, extremely fast, and we've been working right up to our target timelines to release something, which means we're scrambling the day of. And that's why in many cases, we announce a launch date and it might be midnight that day that the product actually goes out. So ideally what we're doing this time around, and really the launch structure is, we get through phase 3, we have confirmation that the client is exactly how we want it to be, and we know that everything works well, and we know what the deployment strategy looks like. And so then we announce a date and we run a 30 or 45-day go-to-market campaign that includes the launch of C4 as well as everything associated with Zinc, mainnet, Genesis event, token listings, DeFi integrations, etc. So that's kind of the timeline. We're probably still 2 to 3 months out, I would say, from seeing a mainnet launch, but I think just with the steady progress that we've seen on everything, I have every expectation that we can hit those target dates.
Michael, another question
No
for
pressure. No pressure.
you. No pressure. We'll get to know the public launch game name before then.
Well, I mean, what we've talked about is we're actually just calling this Sage. It's no longer Sage Labs. It's not Sage Starbased. This is the actual foundation of our perpetual browser game. So I'm just calling this one Sage, which is Star Atlas Golden Era for anyone that doesn't know. And since I have the mic, I'll just mention, you guys have probably seen it, but I did make a little announcement. This was a bit of a selfish feature that I was interested in, but if you go into settings and then just the account tab and click on view character info and scroll down just to the second component there, it's the phase 2 ZXP tracker. So that gives you details on the maximum amount of ZXP that you can earn per day. It assumes that you have the 25% daily check-in multiplier, but then otherwise you get the additional additive multiplier on top if you have one of the memberships, and then it gives you all of the historical data on how much ZXP you've earned per day. That was kind of a fun one. It was like something I wanted to see in an afternoon, and 2 or 3 prompts later, and it was deployed and in the game.
Let's go. Guys, we are almost at the top of the hour.
I got one thing I think we should just tease out. I don't, you know.
Oh, Jesus. It's
Hopefully-
what I'm thinking it is. Oh, yeah.
Are you
Oh,
thinking it's related to the single player campaign?
yes. I am.
Yeah.
Do it.
I'm gonna leak it.
Yeah,
I think
just do
people have seen the early version of this, but this is effectively final. I just have to track it down here and download it real quick.
They decided to keep my arms for the video. I was really happy.
Yes. Yes. It was very fair. You deserved it, John.
My second ever arm modeling gig.
All right. Making sure I'm not leaking anything from my desktop. Yeah, so we're gonna. This is just to set the context. This is the part of the intro storyline of single player campaign. So when you first either download that game or connect and click into single player campaign, it's going to launch you directly into this intro cinematic. Big kudos to Danny for his work on this. Let me just make sure to, I am, believe I'm playing sound here. Okay, we ready?
Let's go.
Show them what you made. Dad, look what I made for you. We miss you.
Greetings, Captain. This transmission is under Council seal. This is Charan Gadi, Mudhead of State and Legislative Leader of the Council of Peace. Your civic expedition has been rerouted under Council seal. A dead convoy filed your call sign before you had one. Confirm your status, transmit your field call sign, and accept the assignment. Keep this quiet until we know whether we found an error, a weapon, or a prayer.
W's in the chat for Danny.
Yay!
Chills. Chills.
Oh man, this is so freaking epic.
And let me just tell you guys that cinematic is probably $1 million plus cinematic if we're in 2021 and 2022.
Yes, absolutely. This is
In
so
fact,
crazy.
probably more. Yeah, probably $2.5–3 million cinematic.
Oh
Pretty
man,
sick.
this is super sick. Damn. And they don't even know what happens after this cinematic, which is probably quite as epic in a different way. But we can wait a little bit until we start sharing that. All right, Michael, I think you actually nailed the perfect ending for this brew.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Well, leave it to me to steal the spotlight, you know?
And with that said, I guess we are closing the brew. The code for today is debugging. And I hope you guys enjoy your week.
Awesome.
Oh,
All right,
man.
guys. Thanks for joining.
Michael, John, thank you guys. See you all. See you
See you
everyone.
guys.
See you all next week. Take care.
What stuff are coming, guys. Keep grinding. See ya.
Ciao.